Hi there. Welcome back to Do Busy Right, where I'm going to help you organize your information and manage your attention so they work for you and not against you. Today, I want to talk about one of the primary enemies of our attention and our productivity, and that's distraction. I talk about interruption, and that's this external call on your attention, notifications, people, noises in your external environment. That's a challenge. I talk from time to time about multitasking, and I define that as a lack of intentional focus on one thing. And often that's because we're trying to be hyper efficient and we don't realize that it really doesn't work. We're trying to slice time too small. And distraction is the third of these. And together, they're the three primary wastes of our attention. The thing that they all have in common is task switching. And task switching is a huge challenge to our attention. It poses a huge cost. The interruption of our attention and the switching to another task, even if that task is trying to get yourself to get back to work, that's a huge challenge and it's a huge waste and drain on your attention. Now, that said, of the three, distraction is weird. And here's why. It's fundamentally an internal thing. It is a self-interruption of our brain of itself. And it happens when we're trying to focus. Might be deep in your work, focused on a single task, and then a thought pops up. And it doesn't have anything to do with the existing thing that you're working on. And it could be a reminder to do something else. It could be a relatively new thought. Hey, my wife's birthday is in 3 weeks, whatever. And they're things that we really actually care about. They're just popping up at the wrong time. Now, the cause is our brains are not particularly adept at dealing with reminders, time sensitive information. So, what happens is they just constantly bubble it up, or they don't, in which case we have a word for that, and that is I forgot, which is just as bad. Now, since it's internal, it really is the hardest of the three ways to deal with. Interruption, you can close doors, put on headphones. People will leave you alone most of the time. Multitasking, multitasking is just a decision you make, and you can make a different decision. You can choose to focus and break the habit of multitasking. Distraction, though, is internal, and there aren't any internal doors that you can close. It doesn't matter how much willpower you have. It's a skill to be trained to notice when your attention is moving away and to bring it back gently. The external stuff is easy. You close the door. So again, it leads to task switching, or it can. In some sense, just the fact that you're having a different thought could be a task switch inside your skull. But a lot of times we'll react to this thought by thinking, oh, I'd better do that before I forget about it. And then we stop doing what we were doing and we then move to doing the new thing. And now we've got task switching and this costly thing that we do during our days. And that is a significant waste of attention and effort. So, why does our brain do this? It's largely caused by the way we try to store tasks and reminders in our brains. Our brains are simply not designed to be reliable, context sensitive reminder systems. It's a network, and so context matters. But time sensitive is something that's pretty foreign to our brain. And the more we rely on our brains to hold on to all the different things we need to do or think about or remember, the more ammunition we put in for distraction later. So what we need to do in terms of a procedural thing, a workflow, is we need to get very good at capture. And the core idea is simple. Get the stuff out of your head. And if it's not in your head, then there are fewer distractions available for your brain to serve up at you. Now, get it out of your head could be write it down on a piece of paper, type it into a digital tool. And that way it's a physical representation and it's out there outside of our brain so we can deal with it. And eventually our brains learn that they can trust the system. And if we have another way to do it, then your brain has the option of forgetting about it and we can train that in. So a well-formalized capture process is key to preventing things from getting stuck in our brain and causing distraction. There are other things that can help. Practices like mindfulness, for example, help us detect when our attention is shifting from one thing to another. And that gives us the best opportunity to kind of bring it back. But the most straightforward way to deal with distraction, and we all need to do it, is to make sure we're not using our brain for something that's not designed for, that we're not using our brain for these time sensitive, semi-urgent task storage, but put that out in a system where we can deal with that procedurally. I'm not asking you to create more alarms from your computer or from your mobile, but just a process-based reminder system. And we can do that, and attention compass is about how to get that done. So, where are we? Distraction is this internal experience of our attention moving from one thing to another. And the problem with that is it is task switching or causes task switching. And that's a waste of our attention. Because we store things in our brain, we file things, and we use our brain as a reminder system. And it's not suited for it. So we need to externalize this stuff and have a better tool outside of our skull to handle these ideas. And that way we free ourselves up from distraction. So if we can figure out how to manage our task list and our thought life in this way, we can become more effective and less exhausted. And that helps us do busy work. I'll leave it there for now.